Hi there, welcome to CKLU 96.7. This is your host, Jess, from our Creator. I'm presenting another edition of Creator Conversations. This week we're presenting a bit of a Valentine's Day special. So we've got two interviews for you. Our first interview is with the masterminds behind Sudbury Burlesque, Jess Crowe and Colin Eady. So not only are they partners in everything to do with Sudbury Burlesque, they are also partners in life. They are also married. So we're going to keep the live chat to a minimum today because unfortunately your host today is a little under the weather. So we'll be letting our interview speak for ourselves. So we're going to jump right in. Remember, you can always check out our Creator on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. You can look us up on ourcreator.com for all sorts of updates about what things are going on in your community. If you go to www.ourcrater.com, and you can stay up to date on everything that we're up to. So listen in. We are going to talk with Jess Crowe and Colin Eady from Sudbury Burlesque. We're going to hear some stories about how they first met and about their proposal, actually, if you happen to catch that the tail end of their sold-out run of Jesus Christ Superstar. But you're going to hear a whole story in just a moment. Tune in, and you'll also hear more about their show coming up, I Heart the 80s, this weekend on Friday and Saturday, the 16th and 17th. Jess and Colin, the two of you are the masterminds behind Sudbury Burlesque, but what some people may not know is that you are also not only partners in performance, but also in your personal lives because you are married. So seeing this is a Valentine's edition of Creator Conversations, can you think way, 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 way back to when you first met? And I know that was a really long time for you guys.
It's so funny.
Really
it's funny because Colin's on one phone and I'm on the other, and we're just looking at each other.
Yeah.
From across the room.
You remember?
Well, Colin tells the story about how I was singing and playing guitar, and that I walked by him nonchalantly and didn't pay him any attention, and he...
That's when I saw you, but not when we first met.
That's when he saw me first. And when we first met, we met doing Les Miserables in high school at Sudbury Secondary. So I'm not going to say how long ago that was, but it was a long time ago.
Yes.
Last year.
Yeah, just a few years back.
We just graduated last year, so it was a few yonder years.
So now, obviously, because you guys met doing performing, you bonded really tightly right from the beginning as young people over performance and loving theater. And now in your adult life, this theme continues. So how do you find having a partner that you can pursue creative projects with? Do you find that this kind of strengthens your relationship going forward?
Well, definitely. I mean, it challenges our relationship because we have to co-create and co-produce these events that's kind of, they don't get away from us, but burlesque became bigger than we anticipated. So we have to put more of ourselves into each show that is bigger and better. So it's a bit more demanding, and I think the challenge of that, working as partners and partners together, is that we challenge each other to really listen, we challenge each other to really compromise and to see each other's vision, because even though we're both really inspired and really want to do this, and we both are doing these shows, we both still have, our own vision when we're creating the show. And for us to translate that to each other can be difficult at times because we're both really passionate people, but it makes for a really good show, and I think it's something that's really strengthened our relationship, and it's not easy being partners in love and life and as well in business, which, as much as it's an entertainment thing, it is a business. We do produce the shows, promote them, and, hire out the acts and put a lot of financial involvement into it.
Yeah,
so,
for sure.
It's something that I'm really thankful for, because as an experience for, the first few years of our marriage and relationship, we've been doing this and traveling and challenging ourselves and growing and kind of, experiencing a lot in a little time. So it's intense, but I couldn't be more thankful that I have Jess by my side doing it with me.
Absolutely.
Aww.
So, Jess, what about you? Do you find having Colin with you through everything that you guys go through Sudbury Burlesque, and obviously just kind of your regular downtime, do you find that you can kind of take on more because you know that you have him beside you?
Well, we definitely know how to delegate and give, he takes care of the things that I'm not so good at, and I do the things that he's not so good at, and I think that's why we're a really good pair, and creatively I really respect his opinion, and I always want his thoughts on every little detail. So I think that we really figured out how to make it work.
How to make it work for you.
Mm-hmm.
So now I was lucky enough a couple years ago to be there for your engagement back in the summer of 2013. It was after a sold-out run of Jesus Christ Superstar, and I know that there's a backstory, so can you fill us in?
Oh, yes, the backstory. Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. You don't remember that?
Yeah, what? Wait, when did that? Yeah, well, we always had a connection with that show in particular, with Jesus Christ Superstar. In high school, Colin was living with a roommate who listened to it on vinyl over and over and over again, and that's kind of how it was introduced to both of us. And I just recall, a grad party. So, we're graduating high school and everybody's partying outside, and we're in a tent and we're singing, this Jesus Must Die at the top of our lungs to each other.
We're singing the priest's number.
The priest's number.
Yeah.
This Jesus must die. Oh, wow,
yeah.
that was so
You have to
impressive.
throw the bass in there to make it,
I was really hoping he was going to do that, too.
It's like a really
proud.
tune.
Yeah, it's just, whatever. But, we just always really, really dug that musical. And when Yes Theatre announced that they were going to have some auditions for it, Colin...
This was our first experience, aside from watching a Yes Theatre production. And, I saw the poster. We went through the process of auditioning, and it was a huge deal for us because it kind of brought us both back into the performing arts and being artists that perform and create, like live theater. Or it really kind of helped pave the way to what burlesque is too right now. But the backstory with that it was so special to us to make it into this musical. And Jess had said, if I was ever going to get proposed to, it'd have to be something really, really special and out there and big. So
yeah, I said, if you're ever going to propose to me, you better not just drop it in the car, while we're driving, go, hey, by the way, want to get married? Because
that was my plan, and that was ruined.
And
so I had to.
There's nothing wrong with that, for some people. That's totally perfectly fine. But I was just thinking, no, I would want you to do some sort of grand gesture, and that's just, we're stagey people. That's just the way it should be,
Yeah.
And he definitely did that because I was already crying closing night. And the way it happened, well, you were there, but the way it happened was so bizarre because none of us knew. He just stepped forward at the end of our curtain call. We did our bows and everything. He stepped forward and he just started singing this song, and we're all looking at each other going, did we not get the memo? Wait, what song are we singing? Because they had said, well, we might sing the song Could We Start Again, Please, just right at the end because it's closing night. It'd be really nice. We'll sing it to the audience. And so we were all kind of prepared to maybe sing again.
Okay.
But when he started singing that song, we're like, oh, the heck? We're all looking at each other. I mean, what song is this? And when I realized what song it was, and this is also another cute thing because Colin had given me. I was traveling to Toronto to visit him, and he gave me a CD to listen to in the car, and it seemed to be all songs. I thought it's kind of it was like a mixtape, right?
Okay. Yeah.
These are the songs that remind me of us. So it was on there, anyways, that song, and.
By the Zombies, The Way I Feel Inside.
Yeah, so it's very. It was cool. It was really cool, and I was a blubbering mess.
So, Colin, you're planning this whole surprise ambush proposal here on stage. What's going through your head? How did you come up with this idea to surprise her in such a way?
Well, I knew that I had to do something special, and the time was right for me and for us in going into being a part of this musical, and I had spoken to her dad. Well, actually, I drove out and I waited for him. He was at camp. He was out fishing all day, but I wrote him a letter asking for his permission, and then I did get that. And I had the ring in my pocket. So we're doing all the dance numbers and stuff, and then I had stashed the ring over on like stage left in one of the wings. And so the only people that knew about it was the director, Alessandro, and so he had let Sean know, who was on sound, not to take out my vocals because we were all on lab mics to amplify that. So I told him the whole gist. So I kind of, put a lot of pressure on Alessandro, who's also performing in the musical, and he's just a huge fan of Love and a great friend. So he was so excited, and I was so excited. So it was kind of like going through the motions, of the musical, and it was still a great experience and thinking closing night. But I remember in the second act when we're starting to do like Superstar and stuff, I was just like, here I go.
Real.
This is real, and there was a lot more pressure because stepping out on stage is one thing when you're rehearsing, but when you're going to put yourself out there and kind of, express your love and ask for this person's hand in marriage.
It could go many ways.
It could go many ways.
Imagine I'm like, no.
Yeah, she sings a song about it. No, 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 no. But, it was beautiful, and I, not that I blanked out, but I remember stepping forward, and it was like a real hot, warm feeling. I was buzzing, and then it kind of like tuned back in at the end when she says, of course, yes, of course. And then we were enveloped with the rest of the cast. They all just kind of like swooped in and like gave us this big hug, and the audience was there screaming. So it was just a real intense, surreal, loving moment. And I think that sent us off with a lot of luck and a lot of love, and it kind of really forged that, theater and performance is really important to the both of us, and being artists. And being artists together and supporting each other, through each step of the way in life and in the arts. And I'm very thankful and fortunate that we have each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So over the years, what would you say is maybe the best relationship advice the two of you received?
I think for sure the best advice is just kind of looking around and seeing how, your parents did it or your friends are doing it, and then what feels right for you, and just being open and honest. It's kind of hard because I feel like, we had on our wedding day, there was a lot of advice and people giving us well wishes and writing us cards and stuff. But it all kind of goes out to be the same thing, that you need to really grow with each other and listen. And I think a lot of patience, because you're both people too, but you're both there for each other, so you can rely on that person. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. I'm trying to clue in on something.
Is there any kind of advice that you two found that worked for you that you would give out to people? I guess.
Who are we?
The love gurus. Jess, what do you think?
Well, I don't know. What I think about Colin is, like, I'll a lot of times step back and I'll look at him and I'll think about, like the day that we met, or, like earlier times, and kind of like will bring myself back to like that moment or like those days. And I feel like to do that is very important, because sometimes when you're with someone and they are your partner for a long time, you can sort of, not, like, for lack of a better word, like, get used to them. You know what I mean? Like, that's why people get, they feel like they're just not appreciated, right? So I think I try to always still see that. And also, I think it helps if you end up with somebody that you actually genuinely love, and you love every single thing about them, and that's how I feel about Colin, so, yeah.
So your next show for Sudbury Burlesque is coming up very soon. So actually, it's well, we're recording this. It's coming up next weekend. So February 16th and the 17th at the Grand. This one is an homage to everything that made the 80s great. So can you tell listeners more about the show?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be totally tubular, really fun. There's going to be a lot happening. There are going to be a lot of things happening. We've got art installations. We've got go-go dancers. We've got seductive surprises on site, including a photo booth. We've got a live burlesque show. We've got acts everywhere from, pop culture, movies. We've got fashion of the 80s. We even have some sports there,
really? Some
80s sporting events. You'd have to come to the show to see that. And it's really, we've got a lot of variety in the acts, 20-plus acts in the show. And we've got some group numbers as well, and I think everybody's really just bringing a lot of fun energy and excitement to the stage this time around.
Yeah, it's really fun. The 80s is quite a fun time. Everything from, well, Jess, you nailed it there. You said it all there.
I said it all there, yeah, and I think that it's just, because it is the 80s, it's just such a laid-back sort of show. I mean, the 80s didn't really take itself too seriously, and neither are we with this show. So, everyone should come, be relaxed, have fun, dress silly,
and just have a great time.
And dance the night away. Yeah.
Absolutely. And the Sudbury Burlesque shows, they quite often do sell out. So right now you can get your tickets. It's sudburyburlesque.ca. And then there's
it's
a few,
.com.
.com.
Yeah.
And then there's a few physical locations as well. So can you rhyme off a few of the physical locations that people can grab tickets?
Yeah, for sure. They can stop in at Bombshell Beauty Saloon. We've got Studio 613 Electric Tattoo. We've got One Sky downtown. Hot Start in the South End. We've got Studio C on Hazel Street.
The Refinery, Between Us Lovers Boutique. You said Studio C?
Yeah, I think that's all of them so far. And then, of course, on the website, sudburyburlesque.com.
Perfect. So if you're planning on going out this weekend, definitely get those tickets before they sell out. And you are definitely going to have a great time at I Heart the 80s.
I Heart the 80s. It's good for couples, good for singles, good for lovers, good for mothers, sisters, and brothers.
Would you say that you would really love me too? In your mind, could you be really close to me?
What are you doing?
I can tell the way that you love me too.
Holy shit.
I've tried to tell the way I feel tonight, but do
Hi there, we are back in the studio on CKLU 96.7. We just heard from Jess Crowe and Colin Eady, the couple behind Sudbury Burlesque, and they have a show coming up actually this weekend called I Heart the 80s. That is coming up Friday the 16th and 17th, Saturday the 17th, at the Grand. So you can get your tickets right now at sudburyburlesque.com. You can also look them up on Facebook, and you'll find the link there as well. And there's a few physical locations there. So if you look up the event on Facebook, you can find a list of physical locations as well. Studio 613, a Refinery downtown. There's a few spots you can pick them up. What we just heard last actually was a live recording from Colin and Jess's proposal that we just spoke about. So it was a great story, a good behind the scenes little story there. And I can tell you for sure, I was in the audience that night, and everyone was pretty surprised. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of music, so keeping in the theme of the interview we just played. So we're going to play first The Way I Feel Inside by the Zombies. That is the song that Colin sang for Jess for their proposal. We're going to go into a few great 80s love songs. So first we're going to do I Want to Know What Love Is by Foreigner and You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Creator Conversations. I bet you're expecting some music right now. Turns out the copyright laws even apply to us. Look below for the link to our Spotify playlist and any other links for the music we might have played this week. Stick around. In just a second, we will be back with the second half of our interview for this week.
Welcome back to CKLU 96.7. We are back here with Creator Conversations. We're about to start a second half of the interview. So we just played our first set of music. That was The Way I Feel Inside by the Zombies. I Want to Know What Love Is by the Foreigner. And You Make My Dreams Come True by Hall & Oates. And if Hall & Oates does not get you bopping, I think there's just something wrong with you. I'm sorry. If you don't want to dance when you hear Hall & Oates, I don't know what's the matter. So our next interview, if you are happen to maybe not be celebrating Valentine's Day, this one is the interview for you. So we sat down with Suzanne Lapointe. She is the owner and the matchmaker extraordinaire behind Speed Dating Sudbury. And so we got the update from her about all the different services they offer, the speed dating experience, and what you should know if you're thinking about giving it a try. First half of the hour, we spoke with Jess Crowe and Colin Eady, the happily married couple behind Sudbury Burlesque. We're switching gears here for second half of the hour to the matchmaker closest to Cupid we could possibly get here in Sudbury, Suzanne Lapointe, who is the owner and event planning specialist for Speed Dating Sudbury. So to get started, Suzanne, can you tell us how you came up with how Sudbury Speed Dating came around, and what was your motivation to start hosting these events?
Well, the initial business was created by a friend of mine, Bridget Lasselle, and how that came about was that she and her sister went to Toronto and they heard about speed dating over there, and they thought it would be a great idea to have something like that in Sudbury because we're limited here. We have online dating, and other than that, where do you meet singles? At bars. A lot of professional people have full-time jobs, 9-to-5 jobs. Some people work shift work, so it's very difficult for them to find those venues where they can meet singles and mingle and get to find a match. So they decided to come up with Speed Date Sudbury. They started with very simple events, just the speed dating event. And then from there, they created the Tables for 8 event, which is a more formal setting, and it's a dinner setting where 4 men meet 4 women, and they get to exchange over dinner at a restaurant. And then the following day, they, decide who they were interested in, and then Bridget would take it from there and matchmake. And about a year ago, she introduced the personal matchmaking service, which is a one-on-one service, and that helps you be more discreet and private into what you're looking for, and it's more selective, so a profile is created, and then within the dating pool, people are solicited to see if there's a possible match there. So in the fall, I bought the company from Bridget, and there was a transition period from the fall to now. She's still in the loop. She's still attending some of our events, and I've officially taken over since January. And I am also in the process of integrating more events so that there's a variety of activities for singles to do together. And that's the story.
That's the story. So if at a typical speed dating event, what can you expect to find at a typical event?
So usually we guarantee a minimum of 6 dates. So once the attendees arrive, we give them a dating card with their names on it. The ladies are assigned a specific table for the whole evening, and then the gentlemen are asked to rotate after 7-minute periods. So they each have their dating card. They write down the name of the person in front of them. They date for 7 minutes. A signal is given. Then they decide if they'd like to see this person or not again. At the end of the evening, they hand in their dating cards, and they get their results the next day For there to be a match, both he and she need to be in agreement that they'd like to see each other again.
So if you're interested in giving speed dating a shot, what is some advice that you would give to make a great impression on your 7-minute date?
The first thing would be the appearance. So it's important to make that first impression. So I always, most people ask, well, how do I dress? You dress as though you were going on a blind date with someone you'd want to impress. So that's the first thing I mentioned. The second thing is to just be themselves. Of course, everybody's nervous because most people who attend these events, it's a first for them. So they're not quite sure which questions to ask or how to act or where to go. So I recommend that people just sit down and say, the first question would be, is this your first time? And then the conversation picks up from there. I would also say to just, not give too much personal information. Just make it light and fun so that you get a feel for the other person. Because if you get too personal right away, then, it could lead you into a conversation or a certain level of discomfort that you don't want.
Mm-hmm. So in your matchmaking services, I understand you go through a pretty extensive process with the prospective matches to get to know them. So can you tell us a little bit more about what that process is like for somebody that might be interested in having a match made for them?
Sure. So what I do is I organize a consultation with a client. We sit down. It lasts about anywhere between an hour to 2 hours, depending on what the person is willing to share and what the person is looking for. So I create a profile for this specific person with very specific questions. Because if the person is willing to invest in this service, they want the biggest bang for their buck. So what I do is I'll ask personal questions regarding who they are, their personalities, their interests, their hobbies, their goals, their education, their past experiences, what makes them who they are, their occupation, and then I go into more details as to what they're looking for. And then they tell me what values they're looking for, what kind of personality. It's not always the physical appearance that is important. I think it's mostly compatibility and chemistry. So once that initial meeting has been set and done, then I think of the people that I have met at the speed dating events, at the Table for 8 events, and also the compatible partners that would be in the matchmaking service itself. So I will begin there and see, okay, well, this person, might match with this person. So I'll organize a date. I'll plan the date for them if they're willing, and then they take it from there. So basically that's what it is. So, of course, there's information that needs to be shared. There is a contract that needs to be signed by both parties because I cannot guarantee that this is going to work out. But I do want to ensure that the people that I introduce to each other don't have a criminal record or they don't, they're very honest about why they're in the service and that the information that they're giving is the correct information. Because any good relationship starts with honesty and transparency.
Absolutely. Do you have any success stories of couples who have met through speed dating services that you can share with us?
Yes. There has been a few marriages.
Wow.
So, yes, there have been people that have moved in together. There have been people that are still dating. Actually, the December 2nd speed dating event, I sent out some invitation to our contacts, and I received an answer from one of the ladies stating that, she was very comfortable in telling me, very happy to tell me that I could take her and her boyfriend off our contact list because they had been going strong since last spring. So There are success stories, of course.
Absolutely. And now you said that you have quite a few new events that you're working on now that you've taken ownership of Speed Dating Sudbury. Can you give us any sneak peeks at some of the sneak hints at any of the events that you might have coming up?
Sure. I'm looking into a new event that would be called A Date in the Kitchen. Mm-hmm. So I'm currently in negotiations with Kitchen Bits. And that would entail a date instead of going out for a speed date or to a restaurant. The interested parties would register online, and what they do is they get a ticket like they normally do for all our events, and then they would show up at Kitchen Bits, and they would have a cooking class, an interactive cooking class. We're looking at anywhere between 8 to 12 people, obviously, the same number of men and women, so that people that do need to do something while they're talking and they're nervous, it would help them out. Who doesn't like cooking? Who doesn't like eating? So that's an event that I'm looking into. I'm also looking into maybe organizing an LGBTQ event, because I think it's something that the city doesn't have, and I think it would be appreciated by the people who are in that category. It's not obvious to find somebody in Sudbury that's gay or lesbian, or, they don't have the opportunity to live this kind of event, so I'm looking into that as well.
Absolutely.
I'm also looking into maybe something Christmassy at the end of December next year. Maybe, I'm not quite sure where I'm going with that, but it's in the works. And having some themed speed date events like Halloween speed dating or Jean speed dating or something along those lines.
Cool. It sounds like you have lots on your plate.
Oh, you know what? It's so much fun. I'm having a ball doing this.
Oh, man. And you do have your one of your Table for 8 events coming up on March 3rd. So are tickets going fast for that already?
It was just posted yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm thinking of maybe adding a group to that, maybe a group that's 56 and older. Usually those tickets go slowly. I'll have 1 or 2 people that will sign here and there, and then by the end of the time frame where I need a specific answer, I will have the table that is filled. So there's no rush for it. Usually people will wait the week of to reserve, and then they go from there.
Wow. So if you're interested in finding out more information about Speed Dating Sudbury, where can we look you up?
You can look us up at www.speeddatesudbury, all one word, .com. We're also on Facebook, so if people are interested in registering for one of our events, they can either do so through our website or through Facebook.
Perfect. Well, thanks so much for talking with us today, Suzanne.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
Welcome back to CKLU 96.7. We just heard from Suzanne Lapointe. She is the owner and matchmaker supreme of Speed Dating Sudbury. So she was giving us a scoop on all the new events that they have coming up. The event that she has coming up most recently is going to be her Table for 8 event. So that's on March 3rd. You can sign up in advance, and essentially what it is she matchmakes 4 women, 4 men. You're all seated at the table, so you have a very casual dinner and conversation. And if there's anyone that you meet at your dinner that you might be interested in learning, getting to know a little bit better, you contact Speed Dating Sudbury, and they will get you guys in touch. So we're going to continue on into into a little bit more music. So I picked out a few fun love jams for you to rock out to. Maybe you're driving home from work right now. Maybe you're just hanging out at home. That's okay. We'll have our Spotify playlist if you want to listen to any of these songs later. So first up we have Kicks by Lights, Somebody Loves You by Betty Who, Bulletproof by LaRue, and Glue by Fickle Friends.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Creator Conversations. I bet you were expecting some music right now. Turns out the copyright laws even apply to us. Look below for the link to our Spotify playlist and any other links for the music we might have played to this week. Stick around. In just a second, we will be back with the second half of our interview for this week.
All right, welcome back to CKLU 96.7. That was the wrap of our edition for today. This is our Valentine special. So we are going to be back again next Tuesday, 5 o'clock, same time, same place on your radio dial, 96.7, or if you're listening online, cklu.ca. Remember, you can always check for past episodes on ourcreator.com. That's OURCRATER.com. Actually, tomorrow, if you're inclined to check out Guilty Pleasures Bake Shop, we interviewed Justine Martin, the owner of Guilty Pleasures, last week, and the shop is actually opening 10 a.m. tomorrow morning for its very first day, just in time for Valentine's Day, for all your specialty cupcakes, all your specialty dessert needs. So it'd be a great date if you're looking for a little bit of a sweet treat for the end of your night. So definitely make sure you check that out. This hour we talked to Jess Crowe and Colin Eady from Sudbury Burlesque. This weekend they have their I Heart the 80s event that's going on at the Grand. You can get your tickets right now at sudburyburlesque.com, or there's a number of physical locations. If you look up Sudbury Burlesque on Facebook, you'll be able to find a list of some of the physical locations that you can pick up tickets. They are $35 for either Friday or Saturday night, so that is the 16th or the 17th. Dress up, wear your best 80s attire. This show, they always sell at their shows, and they do a fantastic job. After that, we also talked with Suzanne. She is the owner and matchmaker at Speed Dating Sudbury. Her event coming up is March 3rd, is the Table for 8. So this is a really unique event where 4 single women, 4 single men in the same age group are invited to dinner to sit at a table for 8. You have a casual dinner. If you meet anyone at that dinner that you are interested in getting to know a little bit better, you can contact Speed Dating Sudbury and they will get you in touch. So those are 2 things that you can look out for coming up. Thank you again for joining us, and as always, remember you can check for past episodes and check for on Spotify for our playlists. So we'll be starting, the next show coming up, will be 6 Degrees very shortly. But for now, let's hear from a few of our sponsors.